28. Today, we're going to be talking about energy and the energy that a founder has to move their business forward and the potential for burnout, which can cause your business to crash and burn. So, I think some founders don't fail because they have a bad idea or that they wouldn't be able to execute it. But I think some fail because they essentially burn out and run out of energy. Now, when you are the business in the beginning, when you're running a bootstrap business, as the founder, you essentially are the business. And so your energy is the business's fuel. Typically you're not going to have a bunch of revenue to burn as fuel. You're not going to have a bunch of staff members to use as fuel. It's literally your energy that is going to fuel this business. And so it's very important to have that energy, keep that energy, protect that energy, and make sure that you don't burn out. Because if you burn out as an entrepreneur, as a founder, especially in the early stages, it's going to crash your business. So we need to make sure that we keep a great amount of energy, a great amount of excitement for our business to keep going. So when we're talking about energy, the biggest worry is obviously, are we going to run out of energy? Meaning, are we going to burn out? So I think the first sign of burnout is usually not necessarily that you've been working too hard and you're too tired to keep moving forward or whatever the case may be, as far as losing energy physically or being mentally drained. I think it's more about losing excitement. I think the moment you start losing excitement about your business or your product or service as an entrepreneur is when that burnout starts to happen. That's when your energy starts to slow down. Usually, as an entrepreneur, those of us that are very excited about being an entrepreneur and really living that life and embrace it, it's the excitement that keeps us going and fuels our dreams. Because especially in the beginning stages, there is nothing else besides that excitement. That excitement is the spark that is making everything happen. And so when we start to lose that, everything goes from there. Even if we're trying to be professional and run a business and say, hey, I'm not that passionate about this anymore, but I still want to run a business. I still want to get it to make money, whatever it is. It's at that point where you start getting less excited that it's going to start to go downhill, even if you're still trying to make it work. So what can we do to stop that, lack of excitement? What can we do to make sure that we stay excited about our business? Well, for one, obviously, it's easier to stay excited about something when you're being successful, and it's easier to be successful at something when you're working hard. And so, working hard, becoming successful, getting somewhere with the business is definitely going to keep that excitement going. Now, it's hard when things start to hit a wall, and that's kind of the you know the 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 double uh, you know cause of it is when sales start to hit a wall or the business starts to hit a wall, and at the same time you're starting to lose excitement for it. That's when a lot of people just kind of throw their hands up and give up. And so we need to make sure that, especially in times where sales are slow or the business is on a downturn, that we keep that excitement. So how can we keep our excitement? Obviously, for one, working hard, making the company successful, that keeps us excited usually as entrepreneurs. Now, in those tough times or in times where things may not seem that exciting, I've talked before about having more short-term goals, writing those short-term goals down and being able to cross them off of a checklist physically, whether that's with a pen and paper or on a Google Doc or whatever it is, to have those daily, weekly, monthly goals. And it doesn't have to be all of those, one or the other. To have those goals written down, those short-term goals, and being able to check them off, that is something that keeps things a little bit more exciting. That is what keeps it from seeming like a black hole that you're throwing all your energy and effort into. So I think that's one way that entrepreneurs can keep themselves going. Excuse me. That is one way that entrepreneurs can keep themselves going, even when the excitement is starting to wane a little bit. You can kind of get yourself a little bit more excited, kind of prop yourself up a little bit more by saying, hey, I have these short-term goals, and I'm doing them, and I'm getting that satisfaction, that little dopamine hit of checking something off of the to-do list that was done, checking off a goal that was completed, and that's going to make you feel better about what it is that you're doing, what it is that you've done, which is going to boost your excitement again. So I think that's definitely something that we can do as entrepreneurs to get a little bit more excited again. I think another thing we can do as entrepreneurs to bring back that excitement is to just kind of travel back in time in our minds and say, why was I so excited about this idea or this business or product or service in the first place? What made it so exciting to me? And is that still there? And sometimes just going back and kind of picturing what it was like when you were first thinking of this idea kind of sparks that excitement again. And sometimes it also makes you grateful for where you are. When you go back in your mind and say, when I first had this idea, I was imagining all this, and it kind of helps you say, well, you know what, I actually am, even though I'm not that excited about it anymore, look how far I've came from then. At that point, I was just wishing I could have what I have now, which is maybe you're not even making many sales, but you have your logo and your website and your social media, and you have things going, and you have a couple customers, and you're doing, I mean, you were dreaming about being at that point when you first started the business, first had the idea. So not only does going back sometimes reignite that excitement, but also kind of going back in your mind to the beginning can kind of give you a little bit more gratefulness for where you are, which can boost that excitement as well. So let's talk about the difference between working hard and draining yourself. And I think the biggest difference between working hard and working too hard to drain yourself is really the excitement, because nobody works quote unquote too hard when they're excited about something. You can't stop a person from working on something that they're very excited and passionate about. And so it's not necessarily the hours of work that we're talking about. It's the fact that the excitement, the passion, the spark needs to be there when working those hours. When that passion and that spark gets diminished, then those hours become draining. Then those hours become a heavy burden to have to bear to get this product, service, or business to the next level. You can ask anyone who's building something new, who's doing something new, who feels like they're changing their company, changing the world, whatever it is, they'll work 24 hours a day if it was humanly possible. They only go to sleep for the absolute physical necessity of having to sleep to stay alive. And the rest of the time they're working or thinking about working on that project, that business, that service, that product. So it's not really the amount of hours, it's the passion and the excitement that you have that keeps fueling you to work those hours. So, we want to make sure that we stay excited. And if we get, let's talk about what happens when we don't have that same excitement anymore. There's a few ways that we can go back and try to kind of reignite that excitement. But what I wouldn't do is move right on to the next thing. I think a mistake that some people make is to move forward, I guess move on, I should say, to a new idea or a new product or service because they lost excitement about the old one. The only time you should be moving on from a product or service onto a new one is when the market has told you to do so and the data has told you to do so. You should not be making those decisions based on whether you like the idea or not anymore, whether you're passionate about it or excited about it. Those things, they go up and down. Those emotions of being passionate and excited, that doesn't have anything to do with the actual viability of the product or service in the marketplace. The market will tell you, is it selling? Is it not? Why is it not selling? Do your research, look at your data, talk to your customers, talk to your non-customers. These are what should be the only determining factors in whether you should shelf a product or service or business and move on to something else. If you let that uh, fleeting excitement feeling determine what you're doing in business, you're going to forever just be chasing your tail. You're going to forever be in, no man's land of never actually getting anywhere or accomplish anything, because you're going with your feelings, and those change, especially when it comes to ideas and excitement. And entrepreneurs, a lot of the times, that's why we become entrepreneurs, because we get excited about an idea and we have an idea that we want to bring to the world. That's the type of people that we are in the first place. So this is something that we have to fight as an entrepreneur, right? For when we are an entrepreneur, having these great ideas, wanting to bring them to the world, then we have to sit down and actually run the business. Then we have to sit down and be the CEO of the company and make it all work. Those are kind of two different things. And so as entrepreneurs, they have to go together, because typically nobody's going to be there to run the company for us. Yeah, sure, some people may have had a great idea and had a partner that ran the entire business, or got an investor and somebody running the entire business. I mean, it's very few and far between. 99% of businesses, the entrepreneur with the idea is the person running the company, is the owner, the founder. Typically, the CEO is the position that they put themselves in. And that's just how it works for 99% of businesses. And so it's kind of two different things that an entrepreneur has to master: thinking of great ideas, being excited about those ideas enough to bring them to the world, to want to put the money and time in to bring those to the world. And then on the other hand, there's, okay, now that I'm sitting down to bring this to the world, I have to actually run a company and then make it work financially. And then on top of that, that next layer is if you start hiring people. Now we're talking about a whole different skill set of managing people. So these are a few different layers that you have here to being an entrepreneur that technically all go together, but for some of us, it's extremely difficult to bridge those gaps. And it's just that way by nature, because again, entrepreneurs, a lot of times we love coming up with new ideas, new things. And in business, you can't just go from one new thing to the next. You have to actually sit down, make it work, look at the data, and then analyze from there, as opposed to just saying, I don't like that idea anymore, let's try something new. Or we tried that idea for a couple weeks, it didn't work, so I have this new great idea, let's try this. I'm telling you, you'll be chasing your tail for years. You have to actually say, okay, this was the idea, we need to build it out enough to put it in the marketplace, get feedback, get data, make sales or don't make sales, and look at why or why not we did, and then make that decision based on actual facts and data that the market has shown you, as opposed to your fleeting feelings of great idea, not great idea, winner, loser. These are things that you can't just decide in your head. You have to look at the data for sure. So, obviously, when we lose the excitement as an entrepreneur, especially for a small company, a lot of the times people can see it, whether that's business partners, vendors, friends, family, customers. Sometimes it's very apparent. And a lot of the time, the entrepreneur's spark and excitement about the company is what keeps it going. And it's also what causes people to believe in it, even customers, right? And so if you start to feel that way, inevitably it's going to start to show, and then it's going to probably cripple your business because people feel it. And the opposite side of that is that your business will continue to grow if you're continued to be excited and passionate about it. People see that, they can feel it, whether it's partners, whether it's customers. People know that you are headed somewhere, that you're not going anywhere, that you're so passionate about this, that you're going to be around. And so, it's definitely something we need to be aware of, that if we are having those fleeting feelings of not being so excited about something anymore, let's go back in our head, try to go over some of these things, try to spark that excitement again, and not just try to move on to a new business or a new idea and leave everybody else that did believe in us originally, or that we were trying to get to believe in us originally, just leave them hanging and show them that you weren't serious about it in the first place. So, definitely something you want to make sure that you're doing is following these things through. Don't ask somebody to believe in you to do something, and then before you even try to follow it through to accomplish it, you change to something else and then start trying to get people to believe in you for that. That's not a very good way to go about, building a business, building relationships, getting customers. These are things, that become difficult at that point. All right, let's go ahead and open up to questions. Remember, we do this show live on X and Facebook and uh, Twitch and Kick and YouTube and all the different platforms we stream live on. So you can always ask us any questions in the chat live that I can answer for you. You can also send us any questions ahead of time to @KyleHirsche or @Founding Without Funding. You can send us a DM with any questions, and I got some questions here lined up. So the first question is from Brian. Brian is asking, I'm not lazy, but I'm exhausted. How do you tell the difference between burnout and just needing discipline? So I think, burnout again, I think is more so when you're not only physically tired, but you're kind of tired of the business or the idea, or you've lost excitement for the business or the idea or the product or service. And so I think as long as you're still passionate about it, I wouldn't worry about how many hours you're physically working if that's what you want to do. Now, as far as discipline goes, I'll tell you that most entrepreneurs, when we're super excited about an idea, we typically don't need discipline. I think, we don't need discipline to sit down and work on things and accomplish them. But I do think the discipline comes later. When that excitement starts to fade, that's when the discipline comes in of, I don't necessarily want to do this anymore. I'm not as excited about doing this anymore, but I have to. I have to have the discipline to see it through. And so I think that's where the discipline comes in. But I know that at first, especially for me, I don't need anybody or myself trying to, have discipline and say, oh, today I have to work on this thing. When you're excited and it's new and exciting and you're building something and things are moving, there's usually no discipline needed to start working. But definitely when that excitement starts to fade, that's when the discipline comes in of staying on track and seeing things through till the end, until maybe the marketplace tells you to change and tells you to get excited about some other idea. But that would be the marketplace telling you that with data and feedback, as opposed to you just feeling like another idea is better or being more excited about the new, bright, shiny idea as opposed to the one that has gotten a little dull because you've been working on it for a while. All right. Question here from Alyssa. How do you keep your energy up when progress is slow? So, how do you keep your energy up when progress is slow? Again, I would say maybe just kind of go back to the beginning in your mind and say, why was I so excited about this idea in the first place? What was exciting to me about it in the first place? And look where I am now. I'm probably somewhere that I only wished that I would have been when I first had the idea, right? So be grateful for where you are, for how far you've come in that process. And also just remind yourself about those reasons why you were so excited about it in the first place. All right, question here from Chris. Excuse me. Question here from Chris. I feel guilty resting because there's always more to do. How do you get past that? I mean, you shouldn't feel guilty about resting as long as you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Obviously, there's always more to do. We're talking about running a business, especially a growing startup business as an entrepreneur. Usually, you're a one man or one woman team. Usually, you either have no funds or you're only using your own funds. Usually, you have no employees. So, there's always going to be more to do. Just know that, are you doing what you need to do, and are you doing your best at it? You know if you should be working for 4 hours every night after your regular work shift, but instead you're watching Netflix. You know that, right? Nobody has to tell you that. Um, as an entrepreneur, we have to be good at telling ourselves that, of saying, this is a few hours that I could have been spent working. I could have been working on something else. We have to be honest with ourselves. And so, as long as you're doing that, as long as you're being honest with yourself about what you could be doing, what you should be doing, then don't feel guilty because there's more to be done and you're taking a break. You need breaks. But, just make sure that you're keeping yourself accountable. And, again, you'll know this, right? If you really search deep within yourself, you'll say, how many extra things am I doing that I could be spending time on working? And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with watching Netflix, right? There's nothing wrong with taking some time for yourself, whatever it is that you do to relax. But a lot of the times, if you kind of dissect your day, you'll see, yeah, I mean, there was really 3 hours here. I spent 4 hours watching Netflix, but maybe I should have just took 1 hour to relax and watch Netflix and then got back to work for another 3 hours. So be honest with yourself. But at the same time, remember that you should never feel guilty for taking a break as long as you're doing everything you should be doing, because there's always going to be more to do, especially as a startup entrepreneur, as a founder, as a bootstrap founder. When following these founding without funding type principles, it's usually you and you alone, you and no money, or you and your own money. And so there's always going to be more to do. So don't let that make you feel guilty. The only thing you should feel guilty about is if you're not doing something you know that you can and should be doing, and you're just not doing it. Then you should be holding yourself accountable and feeling guilty for that. But there's always going to be more work to be done. So that should never be something that's making you feel guilty. There's always going to be more work that needs to be done when you're starting and running a company. All right. Question here. Excuse me. Question here from Lauren. What's the first sign that a founder is heading towards burnout? I think the first sign of heading towards burnout is just not being as excited. When that excitement starts fading, there's a few things you can do to bring it back. But if you're not attempting that, that's when you start fading. I think from then on, it's just a matter of time if you're not really taking action to correct and to bring back that excitement, or to power through, finding ways to power through it. Because again, the excitement, the emotions, those go up and down. But a business needs to stay consistent. And you as a business owner, you need to have your eye on the prize, on the goal, and you can't just change the goal every time you feel less excited about that idea, that product or service. Okay, let's see here. Question from Evan. How do you protect your energy when you're juggling business, family, and a job? Great question. I think as far as protecting your energy, I really think just it's not really about protecting your energy. It's more just keeping that energy and excitement going and being able to pour some of that into your work. So if you have a 9 to 5 job and you have a family, I think you just need to try to organize things to where you spend a dedicated amount of time, get that schedule together and say, these are the days and times that I work on my business. And then I would also try to interject it into other places. What are you doing when you're at your 9 to 5 in between whatever's going on? Are you scrolling on your phone? Could that be replaced with doing something for your business? Or could you just replace the scrolling that you're doing from some gossip type stuff to intentionally following and watching entrepreneurs, motivational speakers, people that can actually help you with insight into your business? So there's a lot of different ways to integrate motivation and excitement and business energy and knowledge into your daily life, even at your job, even when you're with your family, even, whatever it is you're doing in the car, in the Uber, whatever it is. So I think so much could be changed in a lot of people's lives if they just change their algorithm. If you just purposely go follow and watch the content of successful people in your business, of also just general motivational speakers, general business advice, type content, I think it can really absolutely change your day to day, change your outlook, and most importantly, change your energy. If all you're watching all day is negative things or gossip things or whatever it is you're regularly doom scrolling with on social media, if you replace that with positive, business driven, coaching, consulting type driven content, it's going to change your feeling and your day to day, and most importantly, your energy. It's going to keep that energy up, keep that energy fresh and exciting, and keep you excited about being an entrepreneur, about the potential results that there are because you're watching and hearing testimonials from successful entrepreneurs in your industry that have accomplished these things that you want to accomplish, and you're seeing the success that they're enjoying because of it. Get that going through your head all day instead of whatever negative stuff you're scrolling through on the internet. And that even goes for news is super negative. So even though we do want to stay informed on what's going on, some of us more than others, make sure that it's not news all day. Replace half of that news that you're watching and that you're taking in with some great motivation, some great business advice, and watch how that changes your day-to-day attitude and your energy as an entrepreneur. All right. Question here from Jordan. How do you rebuild energy after a rough stretch? Yeah, I mean, just I think to rebuild your energy after a rough patch, go back to the beginning in your mind and just what made this so exciting to me. Bring that back, that feeling, that nostalgia. Just close your eyes and in your mind, take yourself back to the time when you had that great idea and how excited you were about it, how you thought it was going to change the world, and how at that time there was no rough patch that could have stopped you. Somebody could have told you, hey, it's going to be rough. There's going to be rough parts. There's going to be, these issues along the way. But if you keep going, you're going to change the world with this new idea, or change your life with this new idea, change your business with this new idea. And in the beginning, you were so excited about it. If somebody had told you that, you'd say, I don't care. That's fine. I'll get through the rough patches because this is something great that I want to bring to the world. So put yourself back in your own shoes when you were first excited about whatever it is that we're discussing here, and let that excitement and that emotion take over again. Literally practice it. Close your eyes and take yourself back to that place. And that will kind of reignite that excitement. Okay, question here from Rachel. Does burnout mean you're doing the wrong thing or just doing too much? Again, I don't really think there's such thing as burnout if you're passionate about what you're doing. If you're excited and passionate about what you're doing, you're going to work as hard as you physically can and as much as possible. And you know that, right? Anybody that's been super passionate about getting something done, that has a great new idea, that wants to bring it to the market, that's super excited about it, they know that you don't have to tell them to work on it. You don't have to tell them to stay late or to miss these social events because they're so dead set on working on it. It's just something you do when you're living it, when you have that excitement. So I think the excitement and the energy is what keeps you going. Okay, last two questions here. Question from Daniel. What's one habit that drains founders way more than they realize? What's one habit that drains founders way more than they realize? It's a good question. I'm not really sure how to answer that. I think that a lot of founders spend a lot of time on wondering things as opposed to looking at data. So maybe we'll say that. Maybe one of the mistakes founders make is to think more with their emotions when it comes to the actual business, where the rubber hits the road when we're talking about actual sales and processes within the business. I think maybe listening to your emotions too much and to your energy too much can be a downside, because you need to have that discipline of, once those emotions are gone, are you still going to be running this business and still taking this product or service to the market? It's not as easy to do when you're not excited about it, but it's definitely something that needs to be done still, and that's where the discipline comes in. All right, last question here from Samantha. If a founder wants more energy this week, what's the first thing they should change? I think if you want more energy right now, you want more kind of excitement to get you going, change your algorithm. Change your algorithm purposely on social media, whatever social media you look at. I'm sure we all look at social media. change your algorithm, find positive, motivational people in business and also specifically in your business, especially if you're in like real estate or something. There's millions of successful real estate entrepreneurs that have content and coaching and courses and all this kind of stuff. But whatever industry you're in, follow these successful people, follow motivational speakers, read great books. But again, it's easy. We're all already scrolling on social media every day. So the easiest way to replace that mindless scrolling or negative scrolling with positive, exciting, knowledgeable scrolling, that's going to change your energy overnight. That's going to change your mindset overnight. And it's not that hard to do. The algorithm is smart. If you go follow 5 new people and start looking at their content that are motivational speakers in this industry, then overnight your algorithm is going to change to show you, 80% that content as opposed to whatever it was you were looking at before. Very powerful thing to do. So if you're looking to change your energy, change your excitement, change, how you think about business overnight, change your algorithm. It will definitely do that for you immediately. All right. Well,